Just as others, including the United States, supported Indian independence, India championed the self-determination of peoples from Africa to Asia as they too broke free from colonialism. And along with the United States, you've been a leader in supporting democratic development and civil society groups around the world. And this too is part of India's greatness. Now, we all understand every country will follow its own path. No one nation has a monopoly on wisdom, and no nation should ever try to impose its values on another. But when peaceful democratic movements are suppressed, as they have been in Burma, for example, then the democracies of the world cannot remain silent. For it is unacceptable to gun down peaceful protesters and incarcerate political prisoners decade after decade. It is unacceptable to hold the aspirations of an entire people hostage to the greed and paranoia of bankrupt regimes. It is unacceptable to steal elections, as the regime in Burma has done again for all the world to see. Faced with such gross violations of human rights, it is the responsibility of the international community, especially leaders like the United States and India, to condemn it. And if I can be frank, in international fora, India has often shied away from some of these issues. But speaking up for those who cannot do so for themselves is not interfering in the affairs of other countries. It's not violating the rights of sovereign nations. It is staying true to our democratic principles. It is giving meaning to the human rights that we say are universal. And it sustains the progress that in Asia and around the world has helped turn dictatorships into democracies and ultimately increased our security in the world. So promoting shared prosperity, preserving peace and security, strengthening democratic governance and human rights. These are the responsibilities of leadership. And as global partners, this is the leadership that the United States and India can offer in the 21st century. Ultimately, though, this cannot be a relationship only between presidents and prime ministers or in the halls of this parliament. Ultimately, this must be a partnership between our peoples. So I want to conclude by speaking directly to the people of India who are watching today. In your lives, you have overcome odds that might have overwhelmed a lesser country. In just decades, you have achieved progress and development that took other nations centuries. You are now assuming your rightful place as a leader among nations. Your parents and grandparents imagined this. Your children and grandchildren will look back on this, but only this generation of Indians can seize the possibilities of the moment. As you carry on with the hard work ahead, I want every Indian citizen to know the United States of America will not simply be cheering you on from the sidelines. We will be right there with you, shoulder to shoulder. Because we believe in the promise of India, and we believe that the future is what we make it. We believe that no matter who you are or where you come from, every person can fulfill their God-given potential. Just as a Dalit like Dr. Ambedkar could lift himself up and pen the words of the Constitution that protects the rights of all Indians. We believe that no matter where you live, whether a village in Punjab or the bylanes of Chandni Chowk, on an old section of Kolkata or a new high-rise in Bangalore, every person deserves the same chance to live in security and dignity, to get an education, to find work, to give their children a better future. And we believe that when countries and cultures put aside old habits and attitudes that keep people apart, when we recognize our common humanity, then we can begin to fulfill these aspirations that we share. It's a simple lesson contained in that collection of stories which has guided Indians for centuries. The Panchatantra. And it's the spirit of inscription seen by all who enter this great hall. That one is mine and the other a stranger is the concept of little minds. But to the large-hearted, the world itself is their family. This is the story of India. This is the story of America, that despite their differences, people can see themselves in one another and work together and succeed together as one proud nation. And it can be the spirit of partnership between our nations that even as we honor the histories which in different times kept us apart, even as we preserve what makes us unique in a globalized world, we can recognize how much we can achieve together. And if we let this simple concept be our guide, if we pursue the vision I've described today, a global partnership to meet global challenges, then I have no doubt that future generations, Indians and Americans, will live in a world that is more prosperous and more secure and more just because of the bonds that our generation has forged today. So thank you. And Jai Hind. And long live the partnership between India and the United States.
President Obama before the Indian Parliament earlier today as he continues his 10-day Asian trip. Later, he'll be attending a state dinner with First Lady Michelle Obama. Tomorrow, the president heads to Jakarta, Indonesia, where he'll be giving a speech. And from Jakarta, he'll travel to Seoul, South Korea on Wednesday. He'll speak to U.S. troops on Veterans Day. That'll be Thursday. And the G20 summit will begin later on Thursday. It continues into Friday, where the president will hold a closing news conference. Wrapping up his Asia tour, the president will travel to Japan, where he'll attend the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation meetings. He'll then return to Washington on Sunday.